Hi there, I'm Blue, I'm a lesbian, my pronouns are they them, and this is An Idiot Poorly Explains the Plot of Wynonna Earp. Being a lesbian in the modern world has its struggles when it comes to finding good representation in media, like TV shows, movies, etc. A lot of shows with quote-unquote queer representation don't exactly show what queer relationships are supposed to be like, and portray queer characters in an unhealthy manner or shove some random gay people in the background of a 2-second shot. I'm not looking at you, Disney. In any case, I've been gay for my whole life, and representation is sparsely healthy, accurate, and represented in a politically correct manner. But about 2 years ago, July 16th, 2018 to be exact, I came across a little show called Wynonna Earp, in the midst of rewatching Carmilla over and over again. To make a long story short, essentially my life was changed forever, and not only because of the queer representation. The show is just a perfect balance of humor and drama and of supernatural versus mystery. It's irrefutably my favorite show, for sure. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk about myself. You came here for me to poorly explain the plot of Wynonna Earp to you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Quick disclaimer, if you haven't already, I highly recommend that you watch the show before watching this video. I might make jokes that are funnier if you understand the context of the show. Of course, since I am poorly explaining the plot to you, you can always watch this video and then go back and watch the show afterward. But this is your spoiler warning for all 3 seasons of Sci-Fi's Wynonna Earp. Gun noise. Devil to take you back. Before we get into the show's actual timeline, we should probably discuss a little bit of historical context, as well as a brief timeline of what happens up until Wynonna returns to Purgatory. Like a quick rundown of the show's lore, an overview of all the Earp heirs, that sort of thing. If you don't care for that sort of stuff or really just don't want to hear me talk about it, you can skip to part 2. The link is right here, where I actually talk about the actual timeline of the show. So, the show is centered around Wynonna Earp, as the title would suggest, who is the great-great-granddaughter of a famous gunslinger, Wyatt Earp. Personally, I'd never heard of Wyatt Earp before watching the show, so I did a little research to clear some things up, mostly for myself. So Wyatt Earp essentially was a lawman slash cowboy slash gunslinger slash gambler slash man of many trades during the Wild West period of America in the mid-1800s. He was born in Arizona, but spent most of his life in California. He's most well known for his involvement in the events of the OK Corral shootout, which is also a thing I had never heard of until I did this research. So the shootout was basically him, his brother, and his bestie, Doc Holliday, against some other cowboy dudes who don't really matter because they die, I think. It's basically what went down was like Wyatt struck a deal with one of the cowboy dudes. It was $6,000 in return for some information on some outlaws and where they might be located. And the cowboy guy took the deal and then like 2 seconds later got scared and I guess tried to kill Wyatt or something because then they had this shootout to settle things in Tombstone, Arizona. It's supposedly known as the most famous shootout in the Wild West ever. But I had never heard of it until I did this research, so I don't know how true that statement is. Okay, got a hold of that? Historical context. Okay, good. Now throw away all that information I just told you because it really doesn't matter to the lore of the story, other than Wyatt's best friend was Doc Holliday and that he was a famous lawman gunslinger guy. In the universe of the show, things are like basically not canon to American history or accurate to American history, so essentially you know everything you need to know and more. You're welcome. So in the context of the show, Wyatt Earp was this noble lawman who had no flaws whatsoever, even though in history he was involved in a lot of different things that were pretty shady, but we gloss over that in Wynonna Earp. So Wyatt finds and kills 77 outlaws in his lifetime as a sheriff. All of this happens in this area called the Ghost River Triangle. So the Ghost River Triangle obviously isn't real. So the theory is that it's located in North America, where the top 2 corners are around Alberta, Canada, just north of Calgary, and the bottom corner just barely extends into Montana. A lot of Wyatt's kills were supernatural related, and a lot of them weren't. All of them were killed with Wyatt's signature gun, Peacemaker. Toward the end of his career, he attempts to liberate a miserable town called Purgatory from this corrupt, evil sheriff, Sheriff Clutie.
The sheriff there is a madman, unhinged, a terror upon his citizens. Wyatt wants you to ride with him to Purgatory.
He asks his definitely not his boyfriend, Doc Holliday.
You are Wyatt Earp's boyfriend.
Yeah, fine.
To ride with him to Purgatory, and Doc refuses because he's like with some hookers or something. So Wyatt gets angry and he gets this other dude to go with him named Robert Svane. So Wyatt goes to Purgatory all on his lonesome with Robert Svane, definitely not jealous of his boyfriend with some hookers, and kills Sheriff Clutie. Except Sheriff Clutie wasn't any ordinary guy, and Wyatt fully knew this when he killed him. So turns out Sheriff Clutie was actually this polygamous ancient evil demon named Bolshar, like you are sometimes, who actually turns out to be the snake in the Garden of Eden, but that's not important right now, we'll get to that later. Before Bolshar dies, he curses Wyatt and his descendants to have to kill and fight Wyatt's 77 outlaws that he killed that have been resurrected, essentially, as demons, called revenants, and send them back to hell over and over and over again. Every time an heir turns 27, which an heir is somebody who is blood related to Wyatt Earp, the revenants are resurrected again. Despite if they were in hell or alive, they're resurrected. So all of them are back, all 77 of them. The only thing that can send them back to hell is a shot between the eyes from Peacemaker from the Earp heir. Also, the revenants can't leave the Ghost River Triangle. So they're cursed to resurrect over and over again, being hunted down by somebody and never being able to find their eternal peace and not being able to leave the Ghost River Triangle. So they get the worst end of the deal. Oh, and Robert Svane? Yeah, he dies too.
How did you come by it? The wound.
Your husband, he held me as a shield. In between him and Wyatt, he was gonna get away. I told Wyatt to take the shot. Bolt went straight through me and into the demon's heart.
So technically, since Robert is killed by Peacemaker, he is one of the revenants. Robert was really fond of Wyatt and was willing to put his life on the line for Wyatt's cause.
I would ride to hell and back for him if need be.
But Wyatt essentially abandons him in Purgatory to die alone, so Robert becomes, understandably evil, which is important later, so remember that.
You are a dear, brave friend.
Not dear enough.
So Bolshar was a straight-up baller, and he had 3 wives. One was named Constance, and, the other 2 aren't really important as of right now. They don't really have names or faces, but we'll talk about it later. They were essentially witches. After Bolshar dies, which Constance had been planning and hoping for,
his funeral is my freedom.
She, Robert, who's, in the middle of dying, and this priest named Juan Carlo, who is also important, so remember him, seal away the angry witch wives in some boxes.
Pour this upon the talismans I have given you. The key is to use iron.
And to make sure that Bolshar can't rise again, they create 3 magical seals that keep him in his tomb. If they were ever broken, he would be able to be resurrected, and, hell on earth, blah, blah, blah. Wyatt also killed Constance's sons because it's not really clear as to what they were, but they weren't demons, they weren't humans, they were just unnatural creatures. And that was not part of Constance's plan at all. So she gets payback on Wyatt by making Doc Holliday immortal and then throwing him down a well. And Doc is sad because he never made up with Wyatt and he doesn't like closed spaces, but whatever. Doc Holliday was also dying when he made the deal with Constance. He was dying from tuberculosis, which is historically accurate.
I have been dying since I've been 14 years old.
And was afraid of death, so he accepted the immortality deal, not knowing she was going to throw him in a well. Constance doesn't necessarily make Doc Holliday immortal, but rather gives him eternal longevity, which means that he can be killed, but he doesn't grow old. So just think of like somebody who's hundreds of years old, but still looks like they're in their 30s and can be killed, as Doc Holliday would say,
and free me from the ravages of time unless I catch a bullet and knife for an oncoming train.
His eternal longevity is tied to his ring that Constance gives to him. So Robert, he's on the verge of dying, he's bleeding out, don't know how he's able to be this mobile at this point, but Doc's in the well, and he offers to let Doc out of the well if he gives him his eternal longevity ring, which would save Robert from becoming a revenant. Doc is very stubborn and selfish and doesn't give him the ring, so he ends up staying in the well for like hundreds of years, and Robert becomes a revenant. So like any ordinary human, Wyatt grows old, has kids, and dies. A few generations later, we come back to Wynonna. Within the generations between Wyatt and Wynonna, there were a few different heirs, all of them men, so Wynonna's the first female heir. So here's a quick list of the heirs and a little bit about them. We have Wynonna's dad, Ward Earp, who was a raging alcoholic and professional asshole. Edwin Earp, the one-year wonder, who had some sort of deal with Eleanor Roosevelt and created Black Badge, and it's really not explained that much, but he had something to do with it. And then Josiah Earp, who we know absolutely nothing about. None of them are really relevant except for Wynonna and her dad, Ward. So Wynonna has two sisters, Willa, her older sister, and Waverly, her younger sister. And when they were younger, they lived on the Earp homestead just outside of Purgatory with their dad. So around the time that Wynonna is 12 years old, Ward strikes a deal with Bobo Del Rey, who is the evil Robert's Fane.
How could I say no? But let's not let curiosity kill this cat. Tell me why, Ward.
For my family. I walk across with you and my girls are free from this curse.
What the deal said was that Ward would give Bobo this magical quote-unquote lead that would allow Bobo to leave the Ghost River Triangle once and for all. And in return, Bobo would leave Ward and his family alone, which seems like a pretty okay deal. But obviously, somebody who is a professional asshole would do something wrong and break the deal. So Bobo and his demon pals come to take revenge on Ward. So they grab Ward and Wynonna's older sister Willa, who was supposed to be the heir. 12-year-old Wynonna panics and grabs Peacemaker, the gun, and tries to shoot the Revenants, but instead kills Ward. At this point, it's not clear what happened to Willa. Supposedly, the Revenants took her away and tortured her or whatever, and they looked for her for several months, but then she was declared dead after they found a bloody little piece of her nightgown in the woods somewhere.
After 6 months of searching, we found part of Willa's nightgown, coated in dried blood. Jesus.
So now Ward and Willa are dead, and it's just Wynonna and Waverly now. Mama Earp left when they were young, so Waverly and Wynonna are taken into custody by their Aunt Gus, which is Mama Earp's sister. Gus just pretends that the whole ordeal never happened and that the Revenants aren't real, and tries to give the two girls a normal life. Everyone at school and around town starts to think that Wynonna is crazy, because who wouldn't if they were claiming to have killed their own dad when trying to save their dad from demons? Essentially, Wynonna grows up troubled, is in and out of psych wards in juvie, and as soon as she gets the chance, she moves away to Greece. Weirdly enough. I don't know why she chose Greece.
I thought you were in Spain.
Greece, when I heard.
Sweet little angel Waverly sticks around in Purgatory for the next 15 years of her life. Everybody loves her.
Any man in Purgatory would be lucky to have you.
She's well known around town.
Waverly Earp. Quite a popular girl around here. Oh, you know, it's all in the smile and wave.
She's perfect. She's just an angel. And there you go. You're all caught up to the first episode of season 1. A lot of this info is sprinkled in throughout all 3 of the seasons, but I figured it was better to get most of it out of the way and talk about it now than have to do these weird flashback things when I'm talking about the current happening plot. Does that make sense? I don't want to have to do flashbacks while I'm talking about the thing that's actually happening. It just makes it a lot less confusing to talk about all of this chronologically. If you liked my complete and utter nonsense in this video, Be sure to like this video and subscribe. And if you want to see more, potentially a series of me poorly explaining other lesbian TV shows, or, you know, anything else you want to see, like Carmilla, Supergirl, The 100, comment down below and let me know. The next episode will be poorly explaining the plot of season 1. Anyways, see you guys in the next video. Keep it casual.